Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Wiley, and today we're coming back with the fourth starter champion of Raid Shadow Legends, and that's none other than the lovely lady Athel. And let's get to it. So, as you guys know, Athel is a rare champion, attack based from the Sacred Orders faction. So let's start off with her 8-1. And that is her strike down. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns, which is really strong, right? Now, of course, Athel amongst the four has a lot of book eating, but it's worth it because this makes the skill for each of the hits 100% chance to place that weaken debuff off of 3 attacks. Now, just to let you know, weaken does not stack. Once you place it once, then it's just damage for the rest of it. So you're getting an extra 25% chance, which makes it 100, like I said before, with an extra 20% damage increase, right? When you put in the books. So this skill is very great. And if you're wondering what is weaken, weaken is pretty much, actually, let me just read what's weaken before I actually forget like the actual wording, the context. Where are you at? Okay, weaken. Increased damage received by the target champion by 15 or 25%. So basically what that's saying to you is anytime a champion is receiving damage while having the weaken debuff, neither if it's 25 or 15, that means they're taking extra 15 or 25% damage from the weaken debuff overall. So that's why that is so very strong as an A1. Because you got 3 shots to land this. So of course this does need accuracy, so you better build out accuracy for your Athel to land that every single time. Moving on to the A2, and that is Divine Blades. Attacks all enemy, has an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Real simple, you're getting more damage, which is extra 25% damage from the skill once you book her out. So it's real simple. It's an AoE attack, so it attacks all enemies on the battlefield. And of course, you're getting an extra 15% chance of inflicting a crit hit. Ergo, like I said before, the baseline number you need is 70% on the crit rate. The A2 will give you the extra 15 plus the 15 that you start off with, and then boom, that's 100% chance. So there you guys go. And then on the A3, higher blessings. Okay, let's go for it. Place a sorry guys. Place a 25% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. Place a 30% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns if this champion's current HP is less than 50%. Let me read that to you guys one more time. Place a 30% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns if this champion's current HP is less than 50% chance. And then this champion gains an extra turn. Oh, this is beautiful. This is so beautiful. Now, of course, this only takes 1 book, so which means this is a 4-turn cooldown once you push it down to 1 book. But let me tell you how this is actually a 3-turn cooldown. And why so? Because 1, when you put the book into this skill, right, it's going to be 4 turns. But thanks to the gain an extra turn, this is going to be now a 3-turn cooldown skill, right? So this is 3 turns. This is a 3-turn, and of course this is unlimited. So how good is this A3 right here? Well, it's very good. 1, you're boosting Athel's attack increase by 25% for 2 turns of this skill. So that's a 2-to-3 ratio, which is great. And if she's if she has less than 50% of her health, right, she's able to also place a 30% increased defense buff on this champion as well. So this is pretty major. This is pretty major, right? So what does that really, grotesque to? Like, what did that grotesque, right? So if you're able to increase her attacks, right? She has 1,189. So if you're able to increase her attacks with the skill, which you will, it will be 100. It will be, sorry, not 100. It will be 1,486 attack with this increase, 25% increase attack off of this flat, off of this, this flat stat right here of her attacks that's already there, right? if you place the 30% increased defense, that will give her a whopping 1,217 on defense when you activate this, and that's only if she's lower than 50%, right? And then of course, like I told you before about the crit rate, she'll get from her A2 extra 15, that makes it 30, and then you need 70 from build from artifacts to give her a complete 100. So yeah, and then of course, if she's the Aurora League champion, she increases the allies' HP in all battles by 15%, which by 50% of her own HP, that is approximately 15,577, right? So this is pretty good insight. This is pretty she's pretty strong champion overall. And what I'll tell you here is this, right? She pretty much has a lot of upgradations to her, like a lot of upgrading boosts. So other than the Aurora, she probably have like 3 upgrade boosts, which is the crit rate, the attacks, and then of course the defense. The defense is conditional though, because she has to be lower than 50%. But hey, it's still nice to know that she's able to do that in a nice touch pitch, in a nice tough place if she were to get into those conditions, right? So how would I use Athel within the battle scenes? So first thing first, I will go for her A3, Higher Blessings. I'll activate this skill first, right? And without books, just let you know, right? This will technically be a 4-turn cooldown until you're able to put books in her. So just let you know that because the extra turn. But you activate this skill first, which gives her her increased attack, right? Then you go for the A2, which is attack all enemies, right? And then gain the extra crit rate, the crit hit damage of 15%, which may proc or may not proc based upon chance. And then you go for the natural A1 ability and just keep using that until you're able to get back to your A2 and your A2 and your A3 skill. That's pretty simple overall. You know how it is. So how good is Athel in comparison to a lot of the other champions? Well, I'll say this. She's pretty much on par, I would say equal pick with Kale, for the simple fact of one thing only, and that is the fact that A, she's able to self-buff herself, and B, she's able to place weaken debuff. That's a big thing. That's a big factor. You're able to boost yourself with this A3, and then you're able to drop a weaken debuff on your target enemy, which is usually against bosses like Demon Lord and any other bosses you drop that debuff on, and be able to do that damage and bring extra damage, while other champions are able to pour that damage onto the champion as well, which is pretty major to start in the early games and even to the end game scenery as well. So pretty strong champion with a pretty strong debuff early in games. You really love this champion overall, and you would definitely love the champion for whatever you get it for. One thing I'll say that is true. But with that said, how do you build Athel is real simple. Of course, like I said before in all other videos, life steal gear. You can go with speed. Of course, you'll go with accuracy. I think that's the main one you want to go for first. And then of course, if you go with other than accuracy, you can go with perception. Other than that, crit rate, crit damage, cruel, etc., etc. But make sure and understand that amongst those sets that you get, you do need accuracy in those sets. So the main hitter that I would potentially go for at the beginning of the game is lifesteal gear and then accuracy gear. Those are the main 2 ones you want to go for. And if you're able to upgrade, then upgrade to perception gear amongst the lifesteal gear. And then when you're able to work her out of that overall, then of course, then you want to consider a different gear like Savage, Cruel, or any other gear of that nature, depending on where you're using her and servicing you in the game overall, which there's a lot more other ways to use her in the game. Stun, toxic, curse gear for the hex, if you need to place it, and some other different factors. But one of the things that I will sit here and tell you guys is, what is the big notion around Athel? What is she known for? Most people will say she is what we call an arena nuker champion. And why is that? Because A, she's able to self-buff herself, and 2, she's able to AoE, and of course have a strong A1 skill within dropping weaken. So this is pretty good around the block. Now, don't get me wrong, all the champions, all the starter champions of the game can be great arena nukers. Don't get that twisted. But because of her being able to self buff herself, and it also having these skills, especially like weaken, this is makes her case more stronger than all the other starter 4 champions in the game. But like I said, it really doesn't really matter because everyone can be this. But like I said before, because she has this increased attack buff, she just a more stronger candidate. Most of you will say, well, wait a minute, what about Elhain with the increased crit rate? Well, of course, she has to knock one of those enemies off before she can get that. Other than that, she ain't gonna get that overall. So yeah, something for you to consider in that sense. But with that said, that's pretty much my video for Athel. Like I said before, if I probably missed something that I should have said about Athel, I'll make sure to write it in the description so you guys got a little bit of a more written verse written verse detail of Athel in the description, and I'll put it there just like I'll do for all the other starter champions that I mentioned in previous videos. And yeah, so other than that, stay tuned guys for my 5th video of breaking down and comparing all 4 starter champions and who is the best out of the 4 in my opinion, which I already had that in mind of who I think is the best one personally. And then after that, you guys will know for sure who's my honest pick of who's the worst to best starter 4 champions in the game, and why I think the way I think. But stay tuned for that video later down the line as I get this all well worked out. And then I'll see you guys next time on a different video. Peace out.